Hey there everybody, it's Mark Crilley. I'm back with another how to draw video. You know, I'm probably best known here on YouTube for doing videos about how to draw manga, but today I am going to be tackling a subject that is not related to manga. In fact, it won't be connected to Japan in any way, shape, or form. Yes, I know, it's shocking. I hope I didn't give anybody a heart attack there. But we're going to go ahead and do a video on how to draw a dragon. Let's not waste any more time. I'm going to zoom into this area over here, and we're going to start drawing the head of the dragon. All right, so let's go ahead and get going with this. Now, I got to warn you, I know some of these people don't like time-lapse, but with a dragon, it's a very complicated thing to draw: the head, the body, the wings. So, you know, if you hate time-lapse, get ready to rev up your hate machines, people, because there's going to be time-lapse in this video. I'm drawing the head of the dragon in profile. So what I've done here is drawn kind of a boxy shape right here. This is going to be sort of the snout of the dragon. Coming back, and then down here it's curving down into the neck, and we'll get into that stuff later, but let's just go ahead and do the rest of the head. Okay, so this is the snout. It sort of reminds me a little of some dogs have. You know, they have the snout area, and then it comes up here for the forehead. Then we're going to come straight back with a more or less horizontal line here. Now, you know, the thing with dragons is that every artist comes up with his or her own way of doing it. So, you know, it's kind of crazy to say, here's how to draw all dragons. They don't even exist, people. So, I looked at a lot of different illustrators' approaches to drawing dragons, and that's how I came up with this one. So, but by all means, you know, come up with your own way. This is just something to get people started who don't even know where to begin. So what I've done here is I've done this sort of side view. Like I said, boxy here. Here's the forehead. This is going to be an area where horns come off at the back. Most illustrators seem to agree that dragons have horns. One thing that surprised me, though, is that I found many illustrators adding a secondary thing back here that almost looks like a fin coming off the side of a fish or something. And I had never really noticed that before about dragon illustrations, but I'm going to get into the details of that later. For now, I want to show where the eye will be placed in this particular version, and it's coming in right around here. So you got the snout, you got the forehead, and then set back just a little bit. Oh, he erased! He erased! Did you see it? He used his eraser. I do use my eraser, people, honestly. So this is where the eye is placed, and different artists will come up with different ways of making the forehead kind of come across over the eyes. But generally, if you want your dragon to be kind of intense and tough looking, then you're going to want a very strong forehead, and the eye is sort of held underneath that, right? Almost gives that sort of angry eyebrow kind of a feeling. I am going to move over here for doing the mouth, kind of keeping it simple for now. And then in a second, we'll go ahead and start adding details to this. I'm going to add just one last part here that gives us the sense of scales that might run across the back of the neck. What do you think of that? Scales on the back of the neck? And like I said, this thing here is sort of reminds me of the fins on the side of a fish's head. So I've got basically all of this stuff in place. What I'm going to do, somewhat unusually, is pull back now and just move on to the rest of the body and the wings and so forth, and then we can kind of come back and get into more of the nitty-gritty of the details. All right, so we've pulled back now, and I just want to say, you know, that any of you looking at that head and thinking, that doesn't even look like a dragon to me, bear with me. The best part is going to be later in the video when I get to the details. But we're going to continue drawing the neck, and it's got a sort of a vaguely S shape kind of a thing going on as it comes down, like so. It almost sort of reminds me of the Loch Ness Monster. Nessie! as I draw the body right here. And as it comes down and attaches to the torso, you're going to get, in my version anyway, a sort of an angle coming right down here as it comes across. And then up here, it's expanding into the actual shape of the largest section of the body, which you can almost think of as sort of an oval shape right in here. Okay, so pulling back like this, I am going to try to find where the leg, one foreleg, is that what that's called? The front leg should be attached and coming out of the body. I see it as pulled back just a little bit, like so. Now, the legs are some of the trickiest parts of drawing creatures like this. You've got sort of a big, beefy section up here near the shoulder where it attaches to the body. Comes back here, and this section down here is, sort of like a classic dinosaur-type foot in a lot of the illustrations that I saw, which is surprisingly chicken-like. I'll zoom in later to get maybe more in on the details of this. But gosh, there's going to have to be some time lapse in here at some point. There's just so many different things. I think what really is necessary if you're getting into drawing a dragon is separate videos, one for the head, one for the body and legs maybe, and then another one for the wings. And if this video is popular, I'll go ahead and do that. So here's the second front leg, foreleg. And just notice basically both of these legs, there's coming back here, it's going more or less straight down, and then the foot kind of is diagonally forward a little bit. I'm keeping it real simple for now. Again, I may be able to zoom in later and give you a better look at the details, but one thing I noticed as I looked at most of the illustrations I saw, they all seem to agree. The dragon's legs split into about 3 toes. Of course, they're fantasy creatures. You give them 4 toes, give them 17 toes if you want to. Nobody can tell you you're wrong. But I'm just telling you, I'm just reporting back from the front. As I look at a lot of different illustrations, they tend to have 3 separate toes. Sorry that you can't see the details, because I had to pull really far back. That's another problem with this subject matter. Is that in order to fit the whole body, give you sort of a general overview, I need to pull the camera pretty far back. But we will come in later. And now here's one of the cool things that I noticed in some illustrations, which I really liked, is that you had this front, like I said, this sort of ovally section up here. And then as it comes back to what would be, I think, like the stomach, maybe, a lot of illustrators chose to really make it much smaller, this abdomen getting really small, which can be kind of a cool effect, I think. But let's go ahead and get the rear leg. What is the opposite of foreleg? The rear leg. I'm just going to call it the rear leg. And this one is sort of a classic. I always think of horses as having these legs, rear legs that are split into 3 different directions, and it can be quite a trick to draw them properly. But basically, if you think of this as, like I said, the big beefy part of the thigh, cutting back pretty sharply, not quite a right angle, but pretty sharply, and then coming back forward. So you get this sort of Z shape, I guess you could call it, coming down here towards the foot. I'm just going to, to save time, you guys will know that I'm going to make a matching foot later on here. And then, again, just to sort of zip through this, here's a mirroring. I'm trying to pronounce that properly. The second leg pretty much mirrors that first leg that we drew. And again, I'm just going to sort of lightly indicate that shape and plan on getting back to the details later on so that I can move on to the wings. And here we go. This can be a tricky part, is drawing this section where the wings connect. I'm going to come back and talk a little bit about some of the musculature that I saw in that area. But basically, we got a big, thick section coming off here. Some artists I saw really did seem to be thinking this through in terms of how thick the arm would have to be to hold a really massive wing. And of course you need a massive wing to support the weight of a dragon like this. You know, if you try to imagine it being able to lift itself into the air, then you're going to need some really big wings. Not all artists hold themselves to that. A lot of times they're just like, hey, this is a fantasy creature, I'll give them small wings, whatever. But I really admired the illustrators who seem to have thought it through and created fairly large wings. Having said that, a lot of people will probably look at my version here and say, those wings are not big enough. There is no way that they could carry that dragon aloft. The tailwind would... see, I can't even do... I'm trying to do like the fake intellectual discussion of aerodynamics, but I'm too dumb to even pull out the words. Anyway, as I did like a wing video before, and a lot of people sort of educated me to the fact that the wing really is like a large hand, and that's why you have like a thumb here, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4 fingers, I guess you could call them, as they come back here that are going to be holding the actual wing material, you know. And one that I saw that I thought was pretty cool really just did a few really thin ones up here at the top, and then gave one really long one that cut all the way back like that. And then added, again, I don't know if this is anatomically accurate or not, but I saw one artist who added one more sort of spine back here, okay? And so if you get this as your big long one, you get a second one here, and get 1, 2, 3 plus the sort of thumb thing up here, then you are good to go for adding in just these little looping lines that suggest the actual sort of canvas of the wing. I keep wanting to come up with some word for what's the difference between the spine-like things that are holding this together and this material that actually is the, you know, the wing material itself. And kind of finishing that off, you know, it's pretty key to get the lengths of this right so that when you connect them. And looking at it now, I do sort of think that this is, I'm not really holding myself to aerodynamics here. I suppose that an actual dragon would need probably wings double the size of this. But I saw one artist actually create some connective tissue right here between these two, which I thought was kind of cool. So I've worked it into my drawing. And later on, I'm just going to hold off till the end. I'm going to do a sort of, like I said, mirroring this first wing. I'm going to do a second wing back there just because we don't want our dragon to have only one wing. Now, do we? But finally, as I wrap up this sort of rough sketch version of the dragon, I'm going to do the tail. Give this guy a tail. And it's coming down like so. A lot of times people will make the tail loop all over the place and cross over itself. I thought just for the purposes of this video that I would keep it simple and show you the entire tail without having it loop across itself. And that is pretty much it. You know, of course, there's the sort of spine-like ridges that a lot of people will... I'm just sort of dashing them in. I'm going to get more serious about it later on. I noticed that some artists will have it, you know, it's big, the spines are big here, they get smaller, but then a lot of artists seem to like the idea of them getting big again toward the bottom of the tail. And I don't know if the idea is that it becomes a sort of a weapon or whatever, but it is kind of a cool effect. So there you go. Maybe not a lot of fun to watch this part of the video, but this is crucial, you know, if you want to draw a dragon. I'm going to start zooming in and moving very quickly through the remainder of this video, drawing details mostly in time-lapse, but I do want to come back each and every time and give you some pointers to describe the choices that I made. Okay, so I decided to do the head at least more or less in real time, at least in terms of giving you the structure, because I fear the time-lapse police coming after me. Because I know it's hard. Some of these people like to follow along line by line, and maybe just for the head, I will try to allow them to do that. So notice how the front of the snout here, the upper lip, I guess you would call it, is coming down into a kind of beak almost. And indeed there are a lot of sort of bird-like qualities to some of these things. I'm going to come up here and sort of add a little more angularity to this upper section of the head. I really want the eye to look more angry, so yes, I am erasing. Have to do it sometimes. Gosh. And I am giving him a much more angry-looking shape to the eye, coming in like so. I'm going to go ahead and put some sort of like bags under the eyes. And I like the idea of giving a sort of a cheekbone-like shape right in here, like so. And you can, if you want to, you can sort of do the suggestion of teeth here, maybe both top and bottom. I don't know if that works. But the bottom part here, I think, can be made more cool looking if we add some sort of horns or spikes. They're not really horns if they're on the bottom, are they? But I saw a lot of artists sort of going in and adding various horn-like spikes coming off the bottom of the chin, I guess you would have to say this is. Oh, let's not forget the nostril. Get that right in there. And then back here, like I said, some artists had a shape of something that to me looks a little like a fish fin coming off here. Again, by no means mandatory. But I thought that was kind of cool, so I decided to work it into mine. Coming back here off this forehead-ish thing is where the horns tend to come out, and there are a lot of different approaches to drawing the horns. I saw some dragons that had very curved horns that were looping back and crossing across themselves and so forth. I'm going for more of a straight back kind of a look. And then coming over here, and this is going to probably be the last thing that I can do before I start kicking it into time-lapse, as I love to do, is to give you some pointers here on how there tends to be a section on the neck, the lower area of the neck, where we have these horizontal lines, right? We all, even people who are casually viewing these things, you sort of notice it's like snake-like, and the upper surface is going to have those scales, right? And then there's this lower belly surface that stops at the bottom of the neck, or starts at the bottom of the neck and goes all the way across. You will see in the finished drawing, all the way back across the chest, the belly, and down the tail. I think I've kind of spent enough time giving you the basics of building the structure of the body and giving you the finer points, I hope, of the structure of the head. Now it is time, at last, for me to kick it into time-lapse, as I love to do, to speed things up and finish off this video. But I promise I'm going to come back and try to give you some pointers of the key little details that I added in during this next part of the video. Okay, so of course I blasted through loads of stuff in time-lapse there. I feel like I really didn't have much of a choice with this video. But what I want to do, and maybe this will help out a little with some people, I am going to zoom in on various sections that I just completed and sort of give some final tips on, just the details of what I just added, and maybe that'll help solve some of the mystery of what happened during that time-lapse period. So let's get into it. So I think this section here where the wing attaches to the body is maybe the area that needs the most extra explanation. And again, it's a fantasy creature. Everyone comes up with their own ways of doing it. But I noticed that a couple of artists at least had a kind of a musculature thing going on here that wrapped itself around the section where the wing came out of the body, right? So you sort of imagine this as some sort of area of muscle that starts up here above this place where the wing connects and sort of wraps itself back down here behind that upper leg, right? So that can be an organizing thing. And then getting some sort of protuberance, is that a word? There's a big little bump coming out here just above where the wing attached. Just kind of adds to it, I think, a little bit. And then I saw at least one artist adding almost sort of like a rib or gill area back here. Helps to kind of break up that space. And so yeah, hopefully that'll help you out. This section here where the wing, the arm of the wing, if that makes any sense, begins, it may be helpful to break that into a few different sort of muscly areas, just to break up the space a little bit. And let me go ahead and zoom in on one of the feet. Okay, so you can see how I did each one of the feet. I noticed it was, helpful to sort of think of it as breaking into 3 basic fingers in a way. They come down here, and then of course you have to try to think of how the claw is going to come out of the front of each one, and as they're turning in space, then the claw is pointing in a slightly different direction. Putting in some banding lines here that helps define those 3 separate areas, and sometimes you can even have that go all the way up into the leg a little bit. But basically you're sort of repeating that exact same. I didn't notice any significant difference between the front feet and the back feet in that regard. So maybe I can wind this up with those final little points and pull out my trusty black Prismacolor to finish up the drawing. So again, I'm going to pull all the way back, do time lapse, and take this thing to the end. Alright, well, there you have it. Went through a huge amount of stuff in time-lapse there. Drawing a dragon is just a very time-consuming endeavor, so it was always going to be a pretty long video no matter what. But I do want to thank anyone who has supported me by picking up Miki Falls or Brody's Ghost. This is my newest graphic novel series, and my How to Draw Manga book, Mastering Manga, in stores now. Should be at your local. Go check it out. See if you're interested in picking it up. But for now, let me go ahead and lay this pencil down. I want to thank you all for watching this video, for supporting me by embedding it on Facebook and other places like that. But let's go ahead and bring this one to an end. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back with another one real soon.